wish has always been, I think we have performed over 360 shows since we started. And it was always the plan to move up, a little bit like the show, you know, chronological order. Always our plan to move, and almost everybody, it appears, I'm learning more about Vegas as I work there, but almost every act or performance starts in one place and gradually starts to move. Some of them move around several casinos before they actually finish, if you will, their little tenure wherever at some other hotel. It's quite a machine. Like you're Scottish. It really is a machine. There's so much.
West Coast,
Where is that?
It's on the West Coast.
On the West Coast. When I was with Grand Prix, we recorded at Highland Studios in Inverness.
Inverness, yeah.
In Inverness, it's way up. I always remember. That we'd work till about at least 1, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning every night, and about a mile from the studio. There was one solitary little pub, and we'd go to the pub every single night after the studio session, and sometimes we wouldn't get there till about 2:30 in the morning. And there was always a police car down by the side door of the pub, and we'd come in there and we'd knock on the door, and the owner, who I think he was in his mid-70s at the time, Richie. And Richie would answer the door, and he'd have a pint glass in his hand. And he goes, "Will you come in?" And we'd come in, and Richie would be walking around with this pint glass full of Glenmorangie. And then we would have a drink, and you go, "Richie, will you have one yourself?" "I don't mind if I do." And I mean, this is my coffee cup, but his glass was never any more than about a half-inch from the top of the glass. Straight up. And I'm going, "Oh my God, you're a better man than me, I can tell you that." But we would stay there till, you know, it was time to get back to the studio and get a little bit of sleep, and then start working the next day again. And great memories up there. I just loved it. I remember taking a tour, going up to the ruins at Inverness, Culloden, of course, very famous historical, you know, we're Irish, the Celts, you know, we got lots of stories to tell, especially after a couple of pints of Glenmorangie.
Robin?
Yes.
Are you doing anything? Are you doing anything solo anytime soon, or putting out any new music?
There is a song on. There's a new project. The keyboard player actually lives and works out of Vegas. He has a project called Renaissance of Rock. It's like a prog rock project, and so far they have released a CD called the White Gate Trilogy, and it's mostly there's 4 or 5 songs on there, and they're all instrumental with the exception of the one that I sang. And there's some talk that they want to complete an album, and they want to tour, and it's very much a type of almost on the same scale of a Trans-Siberian Orchestra type of thing. So I recorded 1 track on there. There's some loose conversation that in 2016 there's a big anniversary with MSG that Michael wants to start recording some new material with me. That's as far as it's gone at this point. We're just basically talking about it. He's currently recording another stage of his Temple of Rock albums, which goes in different layers, and he's recording that right now. And his legal team have already approached me and to see about another possible McAuley Schenker record. So we haven't started to work on anything yet. So it's gonna be busy.
Wow, that's
Yeah, it's gonna be busy. I would love to. I have a lot of ideas regarding what I'd like to do solo-wise. There's a lot of material that I have that I haven't released yet. And I'm just basically waiting for the right opportunity. I was a big Alan, I was a huge Faces fan. I like that type of, that area of rock music, so I'd like to do something like that. And I'm working on doing something very much like an early Faces, a little organic. I like that type of music. It's just to get away from the regular, you know. Hello? Melissa,
hi.
how are you? So, Melissa, where are you from?
I'm from Texas.
Yes, you are. What part of Texas?
Oh, can you tell?
No, I can't. I was being facetious. What part of Texas?
Near Austin.
Ah, I have some family friends down in Houston.
I was just curious, there was a lot, when you were a Survivor, there was a lot of rumors about a possible album that was recorded for vocals. How close were we to getting the calling out vocals, and any chance any of that might come out of it?
That's a good question. I wrote quite a bit of material with Frankie. There was some really nice. There was one really cool ballad. You know, I'm not in a position to answer that directly. I hope some of that will see the light of day. I don't know if it will, but there's some really good material in there. To be honest, in light of the terrible tragedy with Jimmy, I wouldn't want to be disrespectful and say yes that it would come out. So, with great respect to him and to Survivor, I think you would not answer the question for you. I think you would have to stay tuned on that one. But yes, there is material there that has not seen the light of day, but purely out of respect for the band and Jimmy's passing, it wouldn't be right to answer that type of question at this time. But it's a good question, and thank you. Just to read, I don't get a chance to read as much as I used to, but throughout the Save Yourself record, I used to read a lot of Stephen King. That I think used to drive Michael crazy. And the track Crazy was kind of inspired by a lot of stuff that I would read in Stephen King books. For example, the cover, the artwork on Save Yourself was entirely inspired by two things. One, I had just read Stephen King's It, about the clown down in the storm drains, and there was a lot of conversation in Europe about potentially the wall coming down, and so I had an idea of the Berlin Wall being destroyed by the MSG in the logo in the form of some godly sent spaceship that just came right down through the center of Berlin and knocked the wall down. And if you look at the artwork on the Save Yourself, especially on the album cover, we actually made posters and everything that were giant sized. And if you look where the M is, there's actually two eyes that not too many people have ever seen. There's two eyes in there, which represents some form of alien, if you will. And then on the street where the Harley Davidson is, there's a storm drain, and if you look very closely, you can see the clown down in the storm drain. the sheets of paper were to represent all of the lyrics on the record. The flying V through the tank of the Harley Davidson was to represent the heart being pierced by the guitar, but it was purely in a symbolic nature that, you know, it's hard to mend a broken heart, and of course all the trials and tribulations that were going on in Europe between the East and the West was also representative in that sort of symbolic nature of the guitar being pierced. The Harley Davidson, the tank being the heart, being pierced. So it was a kind of a subliminal wanting for peace on my behalf, and a lot of the songs inside were representative of that. Some personal relations, and some not. Some personal relationships to do with very close friends of mine. So it kind of all came together at that point, and I just put it down, and what you hear is basically what you get.
I was just wondering what you've been doing while you've been off right now. What kind of fun are you having?
Well, I'm not sure you'd call it fun. I love my home time. That's the first part. I can answer that for you easily. I love my home time. I love interior decorating. Does that sound like really like a wuss? I don't know. I love interior decorating. I love gardening. I don't have a huge gardening, but I did a lot of interior decorating since I came home.
Your boys, how old are they?
They are 15.
15?
Yeah.
Are they following in your footsteps with music?
God forbid. My son Casey, he is playing guitar really well. He also plays saxophone.
Oh wow!
And he reads, and he's getting really good. My other son Jamie has no interest. He loves to skateboard and skateboard and skateboard and skateboard and skateboard and skateboard.
That told you about a story about a baby he was saving?
Yes.
Back in November.
Oh my God.
You said you hoped the baby lived, or you were going to have nightmares.
And?
The baby lived, of course. He saved the baby.
Awesome.
He needs to say hi.
Awesome.
How is it you look exactly the same as you did 22 years ago?
Well, thank you. I don't think I do, but thank you for that anyway.
Wow, you look great. Life's been very good to you.
Well, I have a good wife and I have 2 boys. I was just talking to Melissa. You know, it's. I think if you stay active, you know, tend to forget about that other stuff.